The starship USS Dauntless hung in space like a silver needle against the black cloth of the universe. Inside the ship, Alex Mason stood at the large window on the bridge. His eyes were fixed on the strange ships that moved toward Earth's defense line. Even after 20 years in the Navy, the sight made his heart beat faster. The alien ships looked like giant arrowheads. Their dark metal surfaces caught the sunlight in ways that made them seem alive. These were the ships of the Vrex, a species from a distant star system that humans had never met before. 6 months ago, the Vrex had sent their first message to Earth. They called humans a prey species. To the Vrex, humans were weak and meant to be ruled. Today was humanity's last chance to change their minds before war began. "How much longer?" Alex asked. His voice was calm, but his fingers tapped against his leg. Lieutenant Olivia Grant checked her screen. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail and her face showed no fear. Before joining the Navy, she had been a top athlete who competed in running and shooting events at the Olympics. "The Vrex shuttle will dock in 15 minutes, she said. "Admiral Powell wants you in the meeting room in 10. Alex nodded. As Earth's main diplomat for this mission, he had studied everything they knew about the Vrex. It wasn't much. The aliens were tall, covered in scales, and looked somewhat like the dinosaurs in old Earth movies. Their society was built around the idea that stronger species should rule weaker ones. "Are you worried?" Olivia asked in a low voice that only Alex could hear. Alex turned from the window. "They think physical strength is all that matters. That's why they see us as prey." He smiled slightly. "They don't know humans very well." The bridge of the Dauntless was quiet as the crew watched the screens showing the approaching Vrex shuttle. Admiral Kate Powell entered the bridge. She was a short woman with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Mason, Grant with me," she said. "Let's go meet our visitors." The meeting room had been set up with care. The large round table was meant to show that humans saw the Vrex as equals. The temperature had been raised to match the warmer climate the Vrex preferred. Guards stood at each door, their faces serious. When the Vrex entered, Alex understood why they thought of humans as prey. The alien in front stood over 8 feet tall. His body was covered in green-gold scales that looked as hard as armor. Curved claws tipped each finger, and when he opened his mouth to speak, Alex saw rows of sharp teeth. "I am Supreme Hunter Skaz," the alien said through a translation device on his chest. His voice was deep and had a hissing quality. "I speak for the Vrex Dominion." Admiral Powell stepped forward. Even though the Vrex leader was twice her size, she showed no fear. "I am Admiral Kate Powell. I speak for Earth and its colonies. This is our diplomatic officer, Alex Mason, and Lieutenant Olivia Grant." The Vrex looked down at them. His yellow eyes had black slits for pupils that reminded Alex of a cat's eyes. Those eyes moved over the humans with what seemed like disappointment. "You are smaller than we expected," Skaz said. "Your images did not show how soft you are." He said the word soft like it was an insult. Alex stepped forward. "Size can be deceiving," he said. "We hope to show you that humans have much to offer as allies rather than subjects." The Vrex behind Skaz made a sound that the translators didn't catch, but Alex thought it might be laughter. There were 5 Vrex in total, each wearing what looked like ceremonial armor with strange symbols carved into the metal. "Your species lacks natural weapons," Skaz said, extending his hand to show his claws. "No fangs, no claws, no armor." He reached out suddenly and touched Alex's arm. Alex forced himself not to pull away. "Your skin tears easily. Your bones break. You are prey." Admiral Powell's face hardened. "We invite you to learn more about humans before you make your final decision. We have prepared information about our history, our achievements, our technology. We have studied your biology," Skaz interrupted. "That is enough. The natural order places you beneath the Vrex." Alex watched the aliens carefully. Their body language was hard to read, but he sensed there was more to this meeting than a simple declaration of human weakness. "If biology is all that matters," Alex said, "then why this meeting? Why not simply attack?" Skaz's eyes narrowed. "The Dominion follows the laws of proper conquest. All species must be given the chance to accept their place willingly." He moved closer to Alex, using his height to tower over the human. It saves resources. And if we don't accept this place you've chosen for us? Olivia asked. The Vrex turned, his gaze to her. Then we will follow tradition. The challenge will be issued and your defeat will be recorded for all species to witness. Challenge? Admiral Powell asked. Skaz made a gesture, and one of the other Vrex handed him a small device. He placed it on the table, and a hologram appeared showing different terrains: desert, water, mountains, ice, and jungle. 5 environments. 5 tests. To prove the natural order. Skaz's mouth opened in what might have been a smile. Though, the outcome is certain. Alex looked at the hologram, then back at the alien. And if humans were to succeed in these challenges? The Vrex made that strange laughing sound again. Then we would reconsider your classification. But no prey species has ever succeeded. Admiral Powell looked at Alex, a silent question in her eyes. Alex gave a small nod. They had expected something like this. The Vrex culture valued physical proof above all else. We will take your challenge, Powell said. When does it begin? You have 2 of your Earth weeks to prepare your best specimens, Skaz said. Choose wisely. They face the greatest hunters in the galaxy. As the Vrex turned to leave, Skaz stopped, next to Alex. Your acceptance is noted. It shows courage, if not wisdom. Alex met the alien's gaze. There's an old human saying, Supreme Hunter, don't judge a book by its cover. Your human sayings will not save you, Skaz replied. Prepare your people for their proper place in the galaxy. After the Vrex left, Admiral Powell turned to Alex and Olivia. Well, that went about as expected. They're overconfident, Olivia said. They see only what they want to see. Alex nodded, his mind already working on who they should choose for the challenge team. Good. Their greatest weakness is that they think they know what humans are capable of. He looked out the window at the Vrex ships. We have 2 weeks to show them how wrong they are. 2 weeks passed quickly. The United Nations meeting room was filled with important people from all over Earth. They had gathered to decide who would represent humanity in the Vrex challenge. On the large screen at the front of the room, pictures of the 5 challenge environments floated: desert, ocean, space, Arctic, and jungle. We need people who are not just strong, but smart and able to adapt, Alex said to the room. He had spent days looking at the files of possible team members. The Vrex think this is only about physical strength. We need to show them what humans are really good at. Dr. Paul Rivers stood up. He had studied alien life forms for 20 years at NASA. His glasses slipped down his nose as he spoke. The Vrex have studied our bodies but not our history. They don't know what makes humans dangerous. They don't understand that we became the top species on Earth, not because we were the strongest, but because we were the smartest. Admiral Powell nodded. That's why we've chosen a team that shows all our strengths, not just physical power. On the screen, 4 pictures appeared. The first showed a woman with short black hair and strong shoulders. Lieutenant Olivia Grant, Powell said. Olympic athlete, Navy tactical officer, expert in reading enemy patterns. The second picture showed a man with a beard and scars on his face. Jack Warren, former Marine, Powell continued. Survival expert who has lived in some of the harshest places on Earth. The third picture was of a woman with brown skin and bright eyes. Samantha Chen, scientist and mountain climber. She has studied how the human body works in extreme places, from the highest mountains to the deepest caves. The last picture showed a man with a friendly smile. Eric Rodriguez, deep-sea engineer. He builds homes and tools that work under the ocean. No one knows more about surviving in water. A man at the back of the room raised his hand. But the Vrex are twice our size. They have natural weapons. How can these 4 people win against them? Alex smiled. By doing what humans have always done, using our brains, working together, and adapting. 3 days later, Alex stood with Admiral Powell in the control room of the Jupiter moon base. Through the window, they could see the competition area. The moon had been changed by science to have 5 different types of terrain, each in its own sealed area. The Vrex ships hung in space nearby. Our team is ready, Powell said. But I'm worried. The Vrex are very confident. Alex nodded. They believe size determines who wins. Let's show them what they're missing. The meeting room was large and cold. The 4 human team members sat on one side of a metal table. Across from them sat 5 Vrex warriors. They were huge and covered in scales that changed color in the light. Their leader, Commander Krez, was even bigger than Supreme Hunter Skaz. Krez looked at the humans with yellow eyes. These are your champions, he asked, his voice full of doubt. They are so small. Jack Warren smiled. He was the biggest of the humans, but still much smaller than the smallest Vrex. Size isn't everything, he said calmly. Skaz entered the room. The rules are simple, he said. 5 challenges. The team that wins the most challenges wins the competition. And what happens after we win? Olivia asked. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. Skaz made a sound like rocks grinding together, which might have been a laugh. If you win, which will not happen, the Vrex will recognize humans as equals and offer alliance instead of rule. And if you win? Alex asked. Then you accept your place as a subject species, Skaz said. It is the way of the natural order. The first challenge was set in the desert area. The teams would have to cross 50 miles of sand and rocks to reach a flag. The temperature would rise to 120 degrees during the day and drop to freezing at night. Each team member could carry only what they could wear. As they prepared, Samantha checked everyone's special suits and water systems. Remember what we planned, she said. The Vrex are cold-blooded. They need outside heat to stay active. They'll be fast in the hot day but slow in the cold night. Eric nodded. They'll try to finish the race during the day. But they won't, Jack said with a grin. They don't know what they're facing. The starting area was hot already, even though the artificial sun had just risen. The Vrex team looked strong and ready. Their scales had changed to a lighter color that would reflect heat. Begin, Skaz called out. The Vrex took off at once. Their powerful legs carried them forward at an amazing speed. Soon they were just small dots in the distance. Slow and steady, Olivia reminded the team. Remember the plan. The humans started at an easy jogging pace. Their special suits kept most of the heat out and held their sweat in, so they could use it again as water. They had trained for weeks to use as little energy as possible. From the control room, Alex and Powell watched on screens. The Vrex are 5 miles ahead already, Powell said, worried. Just wait, Alex replied. This is what humans evolved to do. By midday, the Vrex were 15 miles ahead, but they had started to slow down. The heat made them faster, but it also made them use more energy. They didn't sweat like humans did, so they couldn't cool down as well. The human team kept their steady pace. They drank small sips of water from their suits. They talked to each other to keep their spirits up. When the sun began to set, they were still 10 miles behind the Vrex. Now we see if our plan works, Alex said to Powell. As night fell, the temperature dropped quickly. On the screens, they could see the Vrex team slowing down more and more. The human team, however, kept their same pace through the night. Their bodies, which kept their own heat, were not affected by the cold as much. They're catching up, Powell said with excitement. By midnight, the humans had passed the first Vrex, who had almost stopped moving in the cold. By dawn, they had passed all but Krez, who pushed himself forward through sheer will. Olivia was in the lead for the humans. She saw Krez ahead, moving slowly. She passed him just as the sun was rising again. His yellow eyes tracked her with shock. Impossible, he said, his voice weak. Olivia smiled as she jogged past. Not for humans. One by one, the human team crossed the finish line. Jack was second, followed by Samantha and Eric. They all finished, before even the second Vrex arrived. In the control room, Supreme Hunter Skaz watched in silence. His scales had darkened with anger or maybe worry. How? He finally asked Alex. They are smaller, weaker. Persistence hunting, Alex explained. Before we had tools, we chased animals until they were too tired to run. We can keep moving for days with little rest. We regulate our own body heat. We sweat to stay cool. Skaz looked at the screens where his warriors were still struggling to finish. One challenge means little, he said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. 4 more remain. Yes, Alex agreed. 4 more chances for you to learn about humans. The next morning, the teams gathered for the second challenge. This time they would compete in the ocean area. The task was to build a shelter under the water that could last through a strong storm, and then find 5 special objects hidden in the deep. The Vrex team looked less confident than before. Their leader, Krez, had dark circles under his yellow eyes from pushing himself too hard in the desert. But he stood tall as Skaz explained the rules. Each team has 6 hours to complete the challenge, Skaz said. The team that builds the strongest shelter and finds the most objects wins. Eric Rodriguez smiled. This was his area of skill. He had spent years building homes and tools for people who lived and worked under the sea. They think this challenge will be easy for them because they're stronger, he whispered to his team. But strength isn't everything underwater. The teams were given basic tools and materials. The Vrex immediately began carrying large metal pieces into the water. Their strong arms could lift things that would take 2 humans to move. Let them waste energy, Samantha said as she studied the water. We'll use our brains instead. The human team sat down first and made a plan. Eric drew a simple picture of a round shelter with supports placed in special ways to make it stronger. Jack suggested using the seafloor plants to tie things together. Olivia figured out the best place to build, away from the strongest currents. Humans waste time talking while we work, one of the Vrex called out. His name was Drax, and he was almost as big as Krez. We'll see who finishes first, Jack replied, calmly. From the control room, Alex and Admiral Powell watched both teams. The Vrex were building something that looked like a box with thick walls. They worked fast, using their strength to bend metal and push support beams into the seafloor. The Vrex shelter looks stronger, Powell said with worry. It's not about strength, Alex replied. Watch Eric. Under the water, Eric was showing his team how to make a round shape that would let the water flow around it instead of pushing against it. They worked together smoothly, each person doing what they were best at. 3 hours passed. The Vrex finished their shelter first and began searching for the hidden objects. They swam fast, using their powerful tails to push through the water. They're getting ahead again, Powell said. Just wait, Alex told her. The storm is coming. The water began to move more strongly. Waves grew bigger on the surface. Deep currents pushed against both shelters. The box-shaped Vrex shelter started to shake as water hit its flat sides. Inside their round shelter, the human team was ready. They had finished with just minutes to spare. They had found only 2 objects so far, while the Vrex had found 4. But now all the Vrex had to return to their shelter as the storm grew stronger. Their shelter won't hold, Eric said, looking through a small window. The design is wrong. He was right. As the storm reached full strength, the Vrex shelter began to break apart. Water rushed in through cracks in the walls. The Vrex had to swim out quickly to avoid being trapped. Krez led his team to the surface where they had to hold on to safety ropes to avoid being swept away. From there, they watched as their shelter completely fell apart. The objects they had found were lost in the storm. Meanwhile, the human shelter stayed strong. The round shape let the water flow around it instead of pushing against it. The special supports Eric had designed kept it in place. Now, Olivia said when the storm was at its peak, this is our chance. While the Vrex were stuck on the surface, the human team left their shelter. The storm made it hard to see, but they had planned for this. They used small lights and stayed close together. They found the remaining 3 objects quickly. When the storm ended, the human team had all 5 objects and their shelter was still standing. The Vrex had nothing. How? Krez demanded when they all returned to the starting area. We are stronger swimmers. We can hold our breath longer. It's not about being the strongest, Eric explained. It's about working with the environment, not against it. Your shelter tried to stand against the water. Ours worked with it. In the control room, Skaz's scales had darkened even more. He looked at Alex with confusion in his yellow eyes. You said humans have no natural weapons, Alex said. That's true. So we learned to make tools instead. We learned to understand how things work and use that knowledge. Tools can be taken away, Skaz replied, but his voice had less certainty now. But knowledge can't, Alex said. The third challenge was in the space area. The teams would have to move through zero gravity to complete a puzzle across a large room. The Vreks, with their powerful bodies, thought they would easily push themselves from place to place faster than the humans. They were wrong. The human team moved with surprising ease in zero gravity. They had trained in similar conditions on Earth. They understood how to use small movements to control where they went. The Vreks, used to relying on their strong legs, pushed too hard and often missed their targets. They've never had to think about how they move, Samantha explained to her team. We have to think about it all the time, so we're better at it. The puzzle required the teams to place glowing cubes in the right order to create a map of the solar system. The Vreks tried to solve it by trying every possible combination. The humans worked out the pattern and solved it in half the time. Another victory for Earth, Admiral Powell said proudly as the human team completed the challenge. 3 wins, Alex said. They only need 1 more. That evening, Krez asked to speak with Jack Warren alone. They met in a small room between the challenge areas. I do not understand, Krez said. His voice was quieter than usual. You are physically weaker. How do you keep winning? Jack thought for a moment. Humans were never the strongest animals on Earth. We couldn't run the fastest or swim the best. We didn't have claws or sharp teeth. So we had to become something else. What? Krez asked. Adaptable, Jack said. We learned to change ourselves and our surroundings to survive. That's why we're dangerous. Not because we're strong, but because we never stop learning new ways to win. Krez looked at Jack for a long time. The next challenge is in the Arctic area. Cold favors us. Jack just smiled. We'll see. As he left the room, Jack could tell something was changing in the Vreks leader's mind. A new understanding was beginning to form. The Vreks had thought they were testing human strength, but humans were testing something else entirely. The Vreks' ability to learn. The Arctic Challenge area was a vast white plain. Ice and snow stretched as far as the eye could see. The temperature was 30 degrees below zero. Wind blew tiny ice crystals that stung any exposed skin. Samantha Chen smiled as she looked out at the frozen landscape. She had climbed the highest mountains on Earth. Cold was an old friend to her. This will be different, she told her team as they put on their special cold weather gear. The Vreks will be slow in this cold, but they're getting desperate. They might try something new. Olivia nodded. They've lost 3 challenges. They need to win the last 2 to tie with us. The rules for this challenge were simple. Each team had to cross the ice field, climb an ice wall, and reach a small shelter on the other side. They would find tools inside the shelter to build a signal fire that could be seen from the control room. First team to light their fire wins, Skaz announced. His voice sounded colder than usual. Alex noticed something strange as the teams prepared. The Vreks were talking quietly among themselves, which they hadn't done before. Krez seemed to be giving them new instructions. They're changing their approach, Alex said to Admiral Powell. They're learning. The challenge began. As expected, the Vreks moved slowly at first. Their cold-blooded bodies weren't made for such low temperatures. The humans moved ahead quickly, their bodies generating heat as they worked. Keep a steady pace, and Samantha reminded everyone. Don't waste energy. They reached the ice wall first. It stood 50 feet high, a smooth surface with few handholds. Samantha took the lead, cutting small steps with an ice tool. The team followed, her path moving carefully but steadily. From the control room, Alex and Admiral Powell watched on screens. The human team was halfway up the wall when Powell pointed at another screen. Look at the Vreks, she said. The Vreks had reached the wall. Instead of climbing like the humans, they had formed a living ladder. The strongest Vreks, Drax, stood at the bottom while others climbed on his shoulders. Krez climbed to the top and pulled the others up after him. They're adapting, Alex said with surprise. They're working together in a new way. The new strategy worked. The Vrex reached the top of the wall just as the human team did. Now both teams raced across the ice toward the small shelter. Suddenly there was a loud crack. The ice under Olivia's feet broke and she fell into freezing water. Jack and Eric quickly pulled her out, but her suit was wet and the extreme cold began to affect her immediately. We need to get her to the shelter, Samantha said. She'll freeze otherwise. Jack picked Olivia up and carried her toward the shelter. The team's pace slowed. The Vrex pulled ahead and reached the shelter first. They found the tools inside, pieces of metal, chemicals, and a starter. We can still win this, Krez told his team. Build the fire before they arrive. The Vrex began building their signal fire. They piled the metal pieces into a rough tower and poured chemicals over them. But in their rush, they made a mistake. The chemicals needed to be mixed in a certain way to burn in the extreme cold. When they tried to light the fire, nothing happened. The human team arrived at the shelter. Jack carried Olivia inside, and the team immediately went to work warming her. Eric took charge of building the fire. The chemicals need to be mixed properly, he said, checking the labels carefully. And the metal needs to be arranged to allow airflow. Eric built a careful structure with the metal pieces. Samantha mixed the chemicals in the correct proportions. Jack helped Olivia warm up by sharing his body heat. The Vrex watched with frustration as their own fire refused to light. Krez looked at the human team with new eyes. He saw how they each did different jobs, trusted each other, and worked together without wasting effort. We should, he began to say to his team, but it was too late. The human fire burst into light, sending a bright signal high into the air. The fourth challenge was over. Humans had won again. That's 4 wins, Admiral Powell said with a smile. We've won the competition. Alex nodded, but he wasn't fully satisfied. Something's still not right. Skaz doesn't look defeated. He looks expectant. In the shelter, the human team celebrated their victory. Even Olivia, now warm again, smiled weakly. The Vrex team stood to one side, their scales dark with what might have been shame. Krez approached Jack. You have won fairly, he said, but there is still one more challenge. It doesn't matter now, Jack replied. We've won the competition. Krez's yellow eyes narrowed. The final challenge always matters most. It is tradition. Later, when both teams had returned to the base, Skaz called for a meeting. His tall form seemed even more imposing as he stood before the humans and Vrex. 4 challenges have been completed, he said. The humans have won each one. Alex felt pride hearing these words, but also caution. Skaz didn't sound like someone admitting defeat. According to our agreement, this means humans will not be classified as a prey species, Skaz continued. But there is a final challenge, as is tradition in all Vrex competitions. What tradition? Admiral Powell asked sharply. This wasn't mentioned before. Skaz's mouth opened in what might have been a smile. The hunt. It is always the final test. Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Arctic challenge. What do you mean, the hunt? The jungle area will be the setting, Skaz explained. The human team will be the prey. My Vrex warriors will be the hunters. If the humans can avoid capture until the artificial dawn, they win this challenge. And if they don't? Alex asked, though he already knew the answer. Then they will have proven that humans are indeed prey, Skaz said. His voice held no emotion. Admiral Powell stepped forward. This wasn't part of our agreement. We've already won the competition. It is Vrex tradition, Skaz insisted. Without this final challenge, our warriors cannot accept the results. Alex looked at the human team. They were tired from the 4 challenges, but there was determination in their eyes. They had come too far to back down now. We'll do it, Olivia said, standing straight despite her earlier fall into the ice. We've shown them what humans can do 4 times already. We can do it once more, Skaz nodded. The hunt begins at nightfall tomorrow. Rest while you can. As the teams left the meeting room, Krez approached Jack one more time. Your team has impressed me, he said quietly. But the hunt is different. It is what the Vrex were born to do, Jack. Met the alien's yellow eyes without flinching. And surviving is what humans were born to do. In the control room, Alex watched the teams go. This final challenge feels wrong, he said to Admiral Powell, like it was the plan all along. Powell nodded. The Vrex never expected to lose the first 4 challenges. This hunt might be their way to save face. Or something worse, Alex said. We need to prepare our team for anything. The jungle waited, dark and full of hiding places. The perfect place for predators to hunt, and the perfect place for humans to show what they could really do when pushed to their limits. The jungle area was hot and humid. Tall trees reached toward an artificial sky. Thick plants covered the ground. Strange bird calls and insect sounds filled the air. It was a perfect place for hiding, and for hunting. The human team gathered, one last time before the challenge began. They had spent the day preparing, studying maps of the area, and making plans. This is what they've wanted all along, Olivia said to her team. A chance to prove they're better hunters than us. Jack nodded. But they still don't understand what humans really are. We've survived as a species because we're good at avoiding predators, Samantha added, and we're good at turning the tables. Eric held up a small bag. I've collected some things from the other challenge areas. Nothing against the rules, just small items they left behind. Perfect, Olivia said with a smile. Now let's go over the plan one more time. In the control room, Alex and Admiral Powell watched the preparations. The Vrex team was also getting ready, their scales now a deep green color that would blend with the jungle. This doesn't feel fair, Powell said. 4 against 5, and the Vrex are bigger and stronger. That's never mattered before. Alex replied. Don't count our team out yet. Skaz entered the control room. The hunt will last until dawn, about 8 hours in this artificial environment, he explained. If any human is captured, the Vrex win. If all humans avoid capture until dawn, the humans win. And what weapons will your team have? Alex asked carefully. No weapons that can kill, Skaz said. Only capturing tools. This is a test, not a war. Alex wasn't sure he believed that. And what tools can our team use? Whatever they can find. Or make in the jungle, Skaz replied. Just as prey would. The human team entered the jungle first. They had a 15-minute head start before the Vrex would begin hunting. They moved quickly and quietly, following their plan. Remember, Olivia whispered, we stay together for the first hour, setting up our surprises. Then we split up as planned. The team worked fast. They used vines to make tripwires between trees. They dug small pits and covered them with leaves. They used the mud from a stream to cover their scent. Everything they had learned on Earth, every trick humans had used to survive for thousands of years, they put into action. Time to split up, Jack said when they had finished. Good luck, everyone. See you at dawn. Each team member went in a different direction. Samantha climbed high into a tree. Eric headed for a small stream. Jack moved deeper into the jungle. Olivia found a spot where she could watch a large clearing. The Vrex entered the jungle. Their movements were smooth and confident. They spread out, using their strong sense of smell to track the humans. Krez led them, his yellow eyes scanning the ground for footprints. They've covered their scent, he told his team. Be careful. They've proven to be clever. The first trap worked perfectly. A Vrex named Vril stepped on a hidden pit and fell. And it wasn't deep enough to hurt him, but it took him time to climb out. By then he had lost the trail he was following. Another Vrex triggered a tripwire. Vines wrapped around his legs, making him fall. Again, it didn't hurt him, but it slowed him down. They're setting traps. Krez warned the others. Move more, carefully. In the control room, Alex smiled. They're using the environment again, he said to Powell, making it work for them instead of against them. Hours passed. The Vrex found many traps but no humans. Their frustration grew. They had expected an easy hunt, but they were the ones being challenged. Drax, the largest Vrex, finally spotted Eric near the stream. He moved in to capture him. Eric dove into the water and swam away. Drax followed, confident he could catch the human. But Eric had prepared for this. He had built a small underwater hiding place among the roots of a tree. He slipped inside while Drax searched the water in vain. Samantha stayed in her tree, moving between branches when needed. From above, she could see two Vrex searching below. They never looked up. Jack led another Vrex on a long chase through the jungle, always staying just out of reach. He used his knowledge of the traps they had set to lead the alien hunter into one after another. Olivia's plan was the most daring. She allowed herself to be seen by Krez. Then she ran, leading him toward the clearing she had prepared. Krez followed, thinking he had outsmarted her. The clearing seemed to offer no hiding places. Krez slowed down, suspicious of a trap. But he could see Olivia on the other side, apparently trapped. "You have nowhere to go," he called to her. "The hunt is over." "Is it?" Olivia asked. She didn't look afraid. Krez stepped forward and felt the ground shift under him. Too late, he realized the entire clearing was one big trap. The ground was thin branches covered with leaves, and below it was a mud pit. Krez fell into the mud. It wasn't deep enough to be dangerous, but it was thick enough to hold him. The more he struggled, the more stuck he became. Olivia walked carefully around the edge of the clearing. "You thought this was a test of our ability to run and hide," she said to Krez, "but it's really a test of our ability to think and plan." In the control room, Skaz watched in shock as his best hunters were outsmarted again and again. "This is not possible," he said. "They are prey. They should act like prey." "That's where you're wrong," Alex told him. "Humans were never just prey. We were never just hunters either. We're survivors. We adapt. We learn. And we never play by someone else's rules if we can help it." As the artificial dawn approached, the Vrex had failed to capture any humans. Their best hunter was stuck in mud. Another was lost in a part of the jungle filled with tripwires. Two more had spent hours searching areas where humans had never been. When the light finally came, all 4 human team members met at the edge of the jungle. They were tired, but unharmed. They had survived the hunt. In the control room, Skaz's scales had turned almost black with emotion. 5 challenges, he said quietly. 5 human victories. "Will you honor our agreement?" Admiral Powell asked. Skaz was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "The Vrex honor their word. Humans will not be classified as prey." Later, as the human team celebrated their victory, Krez approached Jack. The Vrex leader was clean of mud now, but his pride was still damaged. "I don't understand," he said. "How did your species become so dangerous without claws or fangs or strength?" Jack thought about this question. "Because we had to," he answered simply. "We were surrounded by predators stronger and faster than us, so we became something more dangerous than any predator." "What is that?" Krez asked. "A species that can look at any problem and find a solution," Jack said. "A species that can adapt to any situation. A species that never stops learning." As the Vrex ships prepared to leave, Skaz met with Alex and Admiral Powell one last time. "We came to conquer," Skaz admitted. "We believed humans would be easy prey." "And now?" Alex asked. "Now we offer alliance instead," Skaz said. "The Vrex have much to learn from humans, it seems." "And we from you," Alex replied. "That's how it should be between equals." As the Vrex ships moved away from Earth, Alex stood at the window of the USS Dauntless once more. Olivia joined him there. "Do you think they really understand now?" she asked. Alex watched the alien ships grow smaller in the distance. "I think they're beginning to. They learned that the most dangerous species in the universe isn't the strongest or the most aggressive." "What is it then?" "The one that never stops learning," Alex said. "The one that turns every weakness into a strength, the one that adapts." "Humans," Olivia said with a smile. "Humans," Alex agreed. "We showed them wrong.